He was 45 minutes into a date, completely alone. And just when he decided to leave, a little girl walked up to his table and said something that changed everything. The night had started with quiet optimism. Daniel Hayes sat alone at a neatly set table in one of the city's upscale restaurants, glancing at his watch again, 7:45 p.m. He had already checked it too many times. His date was late, very late. This wasn't even his idea. His younger sister, Mia, had practically forced him into it, insisting her friend was exactly his type. She had gone on, kind, intelligent, resilient. At 38, Daniel had long stopped believing in perfect matches. His life revolved around work. As the head of a successful tech firm his father once built, his days were consumed by meetings, deadlines, and constant pressure. Relationships? They had always come second. But lately, something had changed. The silence in his house had started to feel heavier. What used to feel peaceful now felt empty. So he agreed to the date. He showed up early, dressed well, ordered a drink, waited. And waited. Now, nearly an hour later, embarrassment crept in. Maybe she wasn't coming. He exhaled, reaching for his wallet. Time to leave. Just then, "Excuse me, are you Daniel?" The voice was small. He looked down, confused, and froze. A little girl stood beside his table. She couldn't have been more than 5. Her hair was tied back, slightly messy, and her dress showed signs of a long day. But her eyes, serious, focused, were locked on him. "Yes, I'm Daniel," he said slowly. She nodded like she'd confirmed something important. "My mom is really sorry," she said quickly. "She got stuck at work and then my babysitter didn't come, and she tried calling you but you didn't pick up." Daniel blinked. His phone. He pulled it out, silent mode, several missed calls, unknown number, messages flooding in. Apologies, delays, panic. The last one read, "I'm outside. I understand if you want to cancel." He looked back at the girl. "So, your mom is here?" She nodded. "She didn't want to come in because she said this place is too fancy for kids." Daniel couldn't help it. He smiled. "And you came in anyway?" The girl shrugged. "You looked sad through the window." That hit harder than it should have. Daniel stood up slowly. "Well," he said, offering his hand, "maybe we should go find your mom before she gets worried." The little girl took his hand without hesitation. And in that moment, something unexpected stirred inside him. Something warm, something unfamiliar, something he hadn't felt in years. But Daniel had no idea that stepping outside that restaurant would completely change the course of his life. Outside, the cool night air wrapped around them. A woman stood near the entrance, pacing nervously, phone pressed to her ear. Her expression was tense, her movements restless, clearly overwhelmed. She looked exhausted, but there was something striking about her. "Lily?" she suddenly called out, panic rising in her voice. Then she saw them. Her daughter, holding a stranger's hand. And that stranger, Daniel. Her face went pale. "Oh my God," she rushed forward. "Lily, you can't just walk into a place like that." Then she turned to him, mortified. "I am so sorry. This is unbelievably embarrassing. I'm Sarah." Daniel shook his head gently. "It's okay," he said. "Your daughter already explained everything." Sarah sighed, covering her face for a moment. "I completely understand if you want to leave. This isn't what you signed up for." Daniel glanced down at Lily, who was watching him carefully. Then back at Sarah. He thought about going home, to another quiet, empty night. Then he asked something unexpected. "Have you two eaten?" Sarah blinked. "What?" "Dinner," he said. "Have you had any?" She hesitated. No, we haven't. Daniel smiled. Then join me. Lily's face lit up instantly. Please, Mom? Sarah looked torn, caught between embarrassment and relief. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. I know, Daniel replied. I want to. That was the moment everything shifted. Minutes later, they were seated inside. A booster seat was brought for Lily, who sat proudly between them like she belonged there all along. Conversation started awkwardly, but didn't stay that way. Sarah explained her job as a pediatric nurse. Tonight had been chaotic. A child emergency, no babysitter, everything falling apart at once. Daniel listened, really listened. And for the first time in a long while, he wasn't thinking about work. He was present. Lily chimed in often, talking about drawings, school, random stories that made little sense but somehow made everything feel lighter. Daniel laughed more than he had in months. And Sarah slowly relaxed. Because something felt different. Most people saw her daughter as a complication. But Daniel? He treated her like she mattered. Like she belonged. And that meant everything. But what started as an awkward dinner was about to turn into something neither of them expected. Something far deeper than a simple first date. Dinner turned into something neither of them planned. What should have been uncomfortable became effortless. They talked about everything: work, childhood, struggles, small joys. Daniel admitted he barely cooked. Sarah laughed, saying cooking was her therapy after long hospital shifts. Lily proudly declared her mom made the best food in the world. Daniel didn't doubt it. But beneath the laughter, there were deeper truths. Sarah shared her story, raising Lily alone, her partner leaving before Lily was even born, the challenges, the exhaustion. Daniel listened quietly. No judgment, no pity, just understanding. That alone meant more than Sarah expected, because most people didn't stay long enough to understand. But Daniel did. And as the night continued, something unspoken formed between them, a connection. Not perfect, not polished, but real. By the end of dinner, Lily was half asleep, leaning against her mother. Daniel paid the bill, despite Sarah's protests. Outside, he offered them a ride home. This time, she didn't hesitate. In the car, Lily fell asleep within minutes. The city lights blurred past as Daniel and Sarah talked softly about life, loss, responsibility. Daniel admitted something he rarely said out loud. I think I've been living, but not really living. Sarah looked at him. I know that feeling. When they arrived at her apartment, it was simple but warm, filled with life. Drawings on the walls, toys neatly arranged. A home. Daniel gently helped carry Lily inside. For a moment, they stood there, watching her sleep. She's amazing, Daniel said quietly. She is, Sarah replied. Then came the question neither could ignore. Would you want to do this again? He asked. Sarah smiled, but hesitated. Dating me isn't simple, she said honestly. There are responsibilities, unexpected moments, compromises. Daniel didn't hesitate. I'm okay with that. And for the first time in a long time, Sarah believed someone actually meant it. But neither of them realized that this second chance was about to turn into something much bigger than either of them had planned. What followed wasn't a typical romance. It was messy, unpredictable, real. Their dates weren't always candlelit dinners. Sometimes they were takeout meals at Sarah's apartment while Lily showed Daniel her toys. Sometimes they were trips to the park or quiet movie nights where Lily fell asleep between them. And slowly, Daniel fell in love. Not just with Sarah, but with Lily too. Her energy, her honesty, the way she trusted him without question. And something inside him changed. His life, once filled only with work, now had meaning beyond success. 6 months later, he invited them to his house. He was nervous. Not about impressing them, but about what it might change. The house was large, too large, But Sarah didn't seem intimidated. She looked around and said something simple. "It's beautiful, but it doesn't feel like a home yet." Daniel paused. "Maybe it could be," she added. That night, after Lily fell asleep in the guest room, Daniel and Sarah sat outside under the stars, and Daniel finally said what had been building for months. "I love you." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I love both of you," he added. Not perfect timing, not perfect circumstances, but completely real. And just when everything felt complete, Daniel was about to make a decision that would change all their lives forever. 3 months later, Daniel stood in Sarah's apartment. Not a fancy restaurant, not a grand setting, just the place where everything truly began. He got down on one knee and asked her to marry him. She said yes, through tears and laughter. Then he turned to Lily. "I have something to ask you too," he said gently. "Would it be okay if I became your dad?" Lily didn't hesitate. She hugged him tightly. "Yes, can I call you Dad?" That moment sealed everything. Their wedding was small, simple, full of meaning. And years later, when people asked how they met, Daniel would smile. It started with a late date and a little girl who walked in to apologize. Because sometimes, the best things in life don't arrive on time. They arrive unexpectedly and change everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to see this.